You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello and welcome to the Cantina Cast. This is episode 252, Resistance Reaction Show. My name is Jonesy and I'm going to be your host tonight. Albert is off serenading his lovely wife with his new Valacord, so I thought we'd bring in a special guest this evening and welcome back the pride of Rhode Island, our limperer, our Lord and Emperor, Mr. Mike Rondo. Welcome back, Mike.
Well, I'm here sooner than I thought I would be because I thought I'd be here at 300, but yet here I am at 252. Just, mainly 2 episodes from my last episode, but it's good to be back. Good to jump in. As I told you and Albert before, if you need me, just go to the bullpen and I'll be in here and I'll be glad to help out. And there's quite a bit to talk about, a little bit. A new little show premiered, and I get some thoughts on it as you do, so I'm looking forward to this. So it'll be a fun time, but it's always good to be back.
So 2 times in 3 weeks, this is starting to develop a bit of a trend here, I think.
All right, slow down there, pal. I'm still in retirement. Don't get the rumors started. But anyway, let's get into this, sir.
Yeah, so I thought maybe we'd start with, so I just got back from Disney World, and one of the things I took a picture of and posted on social media, which I was really cool to see in person, is in the new Toy Story Land. You are right up close and personal with the Galaxy's Edge skyline. So you can see the ships, you can see the landscape taking place, and some of the buildings are also starting to take shape, and the facades are there. They look great, and it kind of got me amped up for Galaxy's Edge. It didn't get me excited for the crowds, but
yeah, well, that's now I'm not one for crowds. That's kind of my thing. I don't like being around a lot of crowds. Like, I'm not into that. And I think a lot of people aren't, but I mean, it seems cool. My interest is peaked, but I'm not like you or Albert or Crawley from Bad Gamers Anonymous and that. I'm not into going to Disney all that much or Disney World. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a Scrooge or something. I don't know. It just doesn't appeal to me, but it looks pretty cool. I've seen some stuff that's online recently of the park or Galaxy's Edge, and it looks pretty darn cool. And I do have a daughter that's going to be pretty good age to take to Disney World, so I'm going to try to go to it. But the only problem is, one, I don't know if I can afford it. And number 2, I don't really want to be sitting in lines all day, because what's the point of going to a park if you're spending the majority of it in a line? But from what I remember with Disney, when I went to Disney World and stuff, and what people have told me since they've gone, like my sister, and since I've been there, I haven't been there since 96, but they're pretty efficient with the lines and everything. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. What do you think about all that?
I think it's going to look great. It's cool seeing it. They're going to do a great job with the immersion factor with Pandora, which is the Avatar land that they have out at Animal Kingdom in Florida. It looks great. You feel immersed. It feels like you're there. And I think you're going to get that same outpost vibe and feeling with Galaxy's Edge too. So I think it's going to be worth it. Man, the lines are going to be insane. Pandora for Flights of Passage was like 4 hours, and we actually stood in that once, which is pretty uncommon for us. We usually, fast pass it and do that and try to avoid the lines, but sometimes you can't. So we'll have to see. But I think it's going to look great. I think they're going to do a great job with it. But it's going to all come down to how do they manage the crowd, how do they manage expectations, and make it, still make it worth your while, even though you're having to stand around a lot.
Now, I'm a rookie in all this, but do they cap the crowd that can go in at certain times or something like that?
They certainly can. They certainly can. There are times, especially after Christmas at Magic Kingdom or the Cinderella's Castle, that they'll actually reach capacity by mid to late morning, and they'll stop letting people in the park. Now, what they did with Toy Story Land, when they opened Toy Story Land at Hollywood Studios, was they had to cap that area of the park. And they were restricting access that just to have people walk around, because people didn't just want to walk around too. And it's a pretty tight, confined area back there. It was the first time walking through that for us too. And so, but Galaxy's Edge looks like it's going to be pretty open, but until you're actually back there, difficult to really get a great vibe for it. But so anyway.
True. And I imagine I imagine when we go to Celebration, there'll be something there to a preview of it. You know what I mean?
California's going to be getting ready to open by that point. So Celebration's in April, and it's supposed to open in California. I want to say like May or June is starting to look pretty reasonable. So it'll be right on the edge of that. So a lot of hype there.
I hope they get to do it in May. Like kind of stay with that Star Wars tradition of May and stuff. I hope they can do that. But anyway.
And then we'll see Florida probably October, November. But anyway, Mike, so we had The Mandalorian released, and I need to have your take on what you thought about the really brief snippet we had and some of the visuals that we've seen.
Well, the snippet was vague, but kind of the feeling of, the gunslinger thing, as you guys discussed last episode. I won't get into that too much, but my thoughts are basically on the image, because I remember when I was editing the show, the image came out the day after or something like that. And I'm like, oh, well, too bad they missed out. And you guys, I think, even alluded to there'll probably be news after we do this. It'll come out and there'll be more news or whatever. So my thoughts were basically tonight on that. And of course, everyone, as we came on to air, before we came on to air, Jon Favreau, he tweeted, he was on Instagram, which is my preferred social media. He did the Wilbur Hood, ice cream maker thing. And everyone got all excited. Now, I don't understand why everyone gets excited over these little Easter eggs that are going to appear in the backgrounds of everything. I don't know why we got to cover everything and get excited. I don't know if we're bored or we just need every snippet of everything. But hey, this is what we are these days. We got to cover every little thing. Leave no stone unturned in Star Wars or whatever. I get it.
Everything has meaning.
I just don't. Yeah. Well, and of course, one of my friends, FedEx Tom, who, if you listen to the show way back in the day, he used to blog for us and stuff. And he's from Rhode Island and stuff, and he put it, Wilbur survived Empire Strikes Back, and maybe we'll get that. That would be pretty funny if that happens. I don't know if that'll happen, but I assume this is just a prop that's laying in the background and stuff, and it's an Easter egg. But back to the Mandalorian themselves, and I say themselves because I don't know if it's male or female. It could be either way in that image. I lean towards it being a male, but in any case, I'd even. I sent a text to Becca when it came out and stuff, because I'm more excited about The Mandalorian than I am Episode 9, which I think a lot of people are. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's just so ambiguous that it's you can't tell what it is, and then they take the helmet off and it's Sabine,
right.
Which wouldn't surprise me. But I don't see, because I know some people are jumping on the whole Sabine thing too, and I'm like, well, that wouldn't be Sabine, because Sabine would be involved with the rebellion, and she wouldn't. Well, maybe she would. I don't know. It'd be curious. I don't know. Do you any speculation at all on who the Mandalorian could be, or who you would like it to be, or just I'd perfectly like a new character altogether myself. But
I think I would too. You bring up an interesting point about is it male or female, because when you look at the walk and the gait that we see in the picture, it does say it's a male figure, but like we saw with Enfys Nest, it that didn't mean a whole lot. That character,
because people thought,
she's fairly petite too, but she wore the costume and the armor, and we were all, fairly surprised. I mean, there was some speculation when the toy came out with the voice, but at the same time, physically, we couldn't tell it was a woman in there. So you're right, it could be. It's a bit ambiguous to us right now, but I still want something new. I want something fresh. We've been talking about this for months now. Of even if we're in these sandboxes of what we're familiar with, and even in some of these in-between spaces, it would be nice to still
just deviate a little.
Yeah, get us some fresh. Yeah, get us a fresh story. Get us a fresh character that we can get behind, and we can start to fill out the world, rather than making the universe and the galaxy smaller and smaller because everybody interacts with one another. Let's have something a bit autonomous, right? And maybe they show up in familiar environments, and maybe they cross paths every once in a while. I'm not against that, but let's have a bit of a fresh take. It's just something to spur a little bit of creativity here. And I think Jon Favreau's an interesting guy to try to take that on. I think he might do a pretty good job with that.
Well, I know Albert jumped on the whole, I can't remember the name of the character that was in the book of Aftermath,
Cobb
the little
Vanth,
snippets.
I believe.
Yeah. I don't know if I like that angle at all. I get the connection and where things are going with the filming location and everything. That seems cool, but I don't think that is where I'd want them to go. But you never know. They can make it work, and I'm open to it. I'm just saying, I don't think that's how I want a completely fresh start of a character that's down on their luck, trying to kind of make it in the galaxy after it's in tatters and and all these things and kind of being on the fringe of being good and bad. That would be interesting. So we'll see.
Yeah, and
those were my thoughts.
Yeah, and you don't have to handcuff yourself to the world we know, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You don't have to try to shoehorn it. I think that's the thing, and we've said that over and over, I believe, so we won't beat it again. But yeah, looking forward to something new. So let's kind of shift to maybe a little bit of a roundup of what we learned over at New York Comic Con. And I thought really what the most interesting part of that was likely the publishing panel. So we got lots of new books, lots of comic books, and we got more information on the books that were announced previously, which I think was kind of more the intent of some of this. So we got the new Master and Apprentice cover, which is Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn. And I think this cover looks fantastic. What do you think about that one?
I do as well. And it's funny because, Becca got excited about this and she sent me a text. Well, what do you think? I said, yeah, it's cool. I didn't get all excited because it's basically Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon from The Phantom Menace. Right. Although Obi-Wan, looking at it more now, looks maybe 2 years younger than what he was when we saw him. And I think that's where they're kind of going with this anyway. I don't know too much of the details on the book, so if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I like the color scape of it. It's very interesting that they went with this color scheme for some reason. I don't know. I like that the colors are kind of dancing all around and,
Right.
I don't know. I just it's a cool cover and it's a good cover. That's all I can really say. I mean, I always love the artwork, so yeah. I mean, I could see getting a poster of this if I could.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought it just kind of popped. It was a little bit different and a little more of that stylized kind of feel to it. So I just thought it was neat. A little different than the covers we're getting elsewhere. So I was excited to see that one finally, and that book taking a little more shape for us here. Because I think that's one that we're definitely going to want to read.
If you look at now, see, I don't know if it's just the way the lighting is, because it looks like one of the suns it actually looks like there's two suns. If you look in where it says Star Wars, there's where the R and the S meet at the end there, it looks like a sun's there. And then it looks like there's the other sun that's in the R's, the two R's and the S there. I don't know if you see that at all, if you brought it up or anything.
Yeah.
But there's a hint of that. And then there's also the darkness that's near Qui-Gon, which is interesting. I like all the colors, and then you get a little bit of purple. You get everything dancing around there. So it's a very interesting cover. I'm actually looking forward to the book itself. I mean, I've been waiting for a book like this for a while with Star Wars, and I'm glad we're going to get one.
You know what?
The next one, though,
it's a bit reminiscent of the old New Jedi Order artwork.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Claudia Gray, looking forward to her. I enjoyed her book so far as well.
Yes.
So yeah, next one we had was the Alphabet Squadron, and this is one where we're going to get a group of pilots that all fly different letters of the alphabet for the ships. So A wing, B wing, so on and so forth. I don't know where this is taking shape. So I'm not overly thrilled about this one.
Is this a young adult book, or I don't know what this is? I mean, it's just weird to me. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I took it more of the what's the book that I'm thinking of there? It's more of the fighters and everything. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's set.
It doesn't do much
after Return of the Jedi. I mean, it sounds like immediately after. So this is kind of like Aftermath too, where the war has been won, but you still kind of like the Civil War, right? It takes a while for it to all ramp down and to finally come to peace. And so, yeah, each one of these pilots, it's a team of pilots, I guess, and they are struggling to end the war they fought so long once and for all, to quote the StarWars.com article there, but not a lot from it. The cover we got is not final. It just has a handful. I think it's a B wing, an X wing, a U wing, Y wing, and an A wing, I believe. So yeah, it kind of seems a bit young adult novel to me too, but I don't know. We'll have to see if it has any more, what's the catch that's going to get to grab you and really get you into that story. And right now, not really all that clear to me.
Well, I got to be honest. The young adult novels are usually a home run with the novels, really. They're usually better than the adult novels, in my opinion. I mean, you could disagree. That's fine. But I don't know. It seems very odd that I don't know where they're going with this, but I'm curious. I'm sure we'll find out more. It's I don't know if someone just said, hey, what would it be like if we added all the fighters into one squad and see where that goes? And maybe that's what it was, like the Air Glue Media way. We kind of throw things on the wall and kind of see what sticks. Maybe that's what this was. And who knows? We'll see.
Right. So we got some more artwork from the Women of the Galaxy book that Amy Ratcliffe has written, and I won't bore you with pictures on a podcast, but we'll have a link in the show notes. And some of this artwork really is good. Of the ones they showed, I think the Jen Urso one, this is the leap while they're on Scarif in the library or whatever that thing is called. It's escaping me right now when they were trying to get the Death Star plans, but that one really jumped out to me as a nice piece of art. And of all the things of that book, I just want to flip through and look at all the artwork. It's like all the artwork that we've seen for the Star Wars books, as well as the ones that you and I have been looking at on the He-Man side. And it's just so much fun to see different interpretations of this work, especially over time. And we're going to see so many different artists in this one that I think there's going to be some really great pieces in there to thumb through.
Well, for me, Star Wars art, you can never have enough of that. And I think I said this 1,000 years ago on this show, because Ralph McQuarrie is I loved Ralph's stuff. And anytime I remember when I was a kid, and anytime we got the concept art, like we got to see it, or anything that was like Star Wars related that was interpreted in a different way, I thought it was awesome. It's like, and then because Star Wars that we see on the screen and everything, and in the cartoons and whatever, and the comic books, and that our imaginations run wild, and we fall in love with that, that whole scene in front of us. But then we see it in a different interpretation, but it's familiar. And it just sparks the imagination all over again and inspires you. I love Star Wars. I can never that's the first book I always do, is the concept art,
right?
No matter what the movie. Even The Last Jedi, as much as I gripe about that art book is phenomenal. I love a lot of those pictures are awesome. Same thing with Rogue One. A lot of that stuff. So anytime an art book or something like that comes out, I usually snag it. And I have no doubt the art in here is top notch anyway, because that's just Star Wars art. It's great. Even the fan art is crazy at times. Like we've just discussed when we're doing the He-Man podcast, and more details on that another day. Well, we have in the Discord channel, we have the Manny Faces thing where we put the He-Man art, and it's just interesting seeing different aspects of what things could be or how other people imagine it. I always like that part of it. But anyway.
And it's about the only thing that Google Plus is useful for right now.
Google Plus is dead, and you need to get over it, sir. But we'll leave it at that. That's an inside joke. We apologize.
I'm gonna need some therapy now. Okay.
Yes.
So we kind of switching topics over to the comic series, because we got a lot of news around the comic books, and so we got some sad news. The Darth Vader comic is going to end at number 25, which is the end of the Fortress of Vader arc, and this is the arc where we learn how and why Vader picks Mustafar to build this castle, and actually some of the the ideas that go into actually creating the castle, because it's not just they're actually constructing it. And this is kind of mid arc in here as we're talking about it, but disappointing that it's going to end at 25. Have
you read this? This isn't out yet, right?
Right. 25 is not out. They're okay. I think this is a few issues away still. I think they're about halfway through the arc right now. So I think they're on 20.
Because the comics, you know me, I have a love-hate thing with the comics. And I've always, this is the thing, like this appeals to me and I want to read it, but then when I read it, it's never as good as I thought it would be. Although there are some moments in the comics, and I'm glad you and Albert are going to talk about the comics more on the show, because that's something we should have done more of in the past. So, but back, the only thing I got to say is, before you go any further, is Vader on Mustafar talking to like the architect of what he wants.
Right.
I don't know. Does that seem like it would be amusing to you? But I mean, it's practical because that's what's going to happen, right?
Right.
But can you see Vader just breathing and saying, "No, I want my bathroom over there. No, over there. I want that there. The TV goes here." You know, I don't know. It just seems kind of cuckoo at times. But continue, sir. I don't mean to interrupt.
No, yeah, it's a little too close to reality sometimes. But
yeah, I mean, it's almost like some of that stuff should just. It happened, but we don't see it.
Exactly.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it's all the execution, right? So how are they actually going to carry that out? And that's the story that's happening, I believe, like right now. And so I'm not that far. But the Vader series in general, I think it's something you would probably enjoy. It's a good series. You get more insight. A lot of the attention was early on with the immediately following the Revenge of the Sith with, the Vader and Palpatine conversation. But
I get that. I did read that.
Yeah, but
actually,
it's been
I will be getting
series.
more. Well, I will be getting more into that because next year, or the end of this year, when I start the season of Darth Vader, I have to get back and I have to go back and read everything and watch everything. So I will be diving into this. The only problem is and maybe you can relate to this, and I don't mean to go off a little here, is that they keep adding so many things to like Vader in the comics and stuff.
Right.
I don't know if I'll be able to keep up, and everything that I do with the season of Darth Vader will be irrelevant a year later. I don't know. But anyway, continue, sir.
Right. So we'll kind of get through the rest of the comics here. The Age of series where the covers were released. So this is the Age of the Republic, which is coming out in December. We got the Qui-Gon cover, the Maul cover, the Kenobi cover. And for Age of Rebellion, which is coming out in April 2019, we got the Vader and Princess Leia cover. These all look really good. The one that I think looks the best, though, is got to be the Qui-Gon Jinn. It just looks really sharp. I don't know what it is. He's got this cool, calm, collected, he's got his lightsaber raised, deflecting bolts and everything. They're all pretty standard fare for comic books, but they just all look really, really good. And I'm interested to see what stories they're going to tell in these, because they're somewhat one-shot-ish in nature. Another one that we're going to get is the Han Solo Imperial Cadet. And this one, I don't really know what to make of. When you look at the cover of the book, it's very, Han's kind of getting backed down by an Imperial officer with this kind of silly grin on his face. But then you read the excerpt and it's trying to put it off as a little bit more serious of a book. And so the imagery and the text are a little at odds. So this is one where we got a little flavor of Han's cadet life in the novelization of Solo, which I thought was good. And maybe there's more to tell there. So this is one where you give it a couple issues and see if you like it or not, and see if it's going to die quickly or if it's going to survive.
We'll see.
Yeah. And then the last one we got is the Shadow of Vader series is coming. And I think the one interesting part about this is in the 4th issue, they're going to touch on the Acolytes of the Beyond. And so this is they were briefly mentioned in the Aftermath book series, right? And so this is the ones who have the
fanboys of Vader.
Yeah, the Vader fanboys, basically. Right? So it'll be interesting to see this group that they get a little time in the limelight here to show us what they got and show us what they're all about.
Yeah, Kylo's friends, good friends of Kylo.
Right? Yeah. We've been curious about them, so yeah. So why not give them an issue? And
well, see, this is the thing that I have, like the issue that I have, like we'd mentioned the Mandalorian, not the Mandalorian, but the guy that's in the Aftermath book that takes the armor of Boba Fett.
Right.
We get it. There's no payoff. Then we get something like the Acolytes, another thing that was mentioned in Aftermath. We kind of get excited about that, and it leaves a lot of mystery going into The Force Awakens, and then we get nothing out of that. Like there's no payoff yet. Now, I know they got big plans, and who knows what they have down the line, but it's like, can I get it now and not when I'm 60 years old?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, that's right. I remember that back in 2015. No, I would like when I'm young.
What's a good question is like, how much world building, how much more world building do you need in Star Wars? Right. Well, yeah, we've got this giant universe and we're still filling out. I don't think that's a bad thing, but you're right. No. We get these pockets of stories, and I'm okay with that though. I think there's interesting things to tell in the in-between cracks, that as long as they don't try too hard to try to connect it. I mean, like we've talked about this before too. If it's its own little contained story in that world, you don't have to go and connect it to everybody. You don't have to have someone appear and have some, connected tissue to it. As often as we like that, and we like finding those little connections, those little Easter eggs, but sometimes a good story is just a good story, and you can tell it.
And I hope that's what they do with the Mandalorian. Just let it be its own thing. I mean, yeah, you can mention certain things, and the Empire will be looming its shadow and everything, but you don't have to. And you could bring Sabine in, because that's a key element, the Mandalorian. So that works, but that's the thing. It's just got to work when you tell that story. But anyway, enough of that.
Right.
Sorry.
So I think that's probably a good segue. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the episode and talk about Resistance. So we're finally here. We finally have the first 3 episodes as of October 7th.
Some of us do.
Some of us do.
Most don't. You don't know the controversy here.
Oh no, I guess I missed it.
Well, because I guess that people were complaining earlier today is that half of us saw it because it was weird on was it Sunday or Monday, whatever it was, Monday, when I got up early, you'd mentioned, it's on the app in Discord, and I'm saying, well, maybe it's on my Verizon thing on the demand, and it was there. So I'm like, this is great. Now, I figured we get the 1 hour first episode, or would get like 2 episodes like that were basically going to be on the first night or whatever.
Right.
I go in there, and there's the hour-long episode, and then there's 2 more episodes, and I'm like, okay. So this is interesting to me, because I'm formulating this, and And I'm finding out people were upset because, well, one, it was on at 10 o'clock at night or whatever it was, right? At that time, Sunday night or whatever it was.
Right.
And then it was able to be on demand, and it was on the app, and you could get the first 3 episodes. And people are like, well, what the heck? And then I'm saying to myself today as I'm driving to work, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Maybe they're doing this to get you conditioned to get into that whole subscription service where, you'll want to have it, and you got to have it. You can have it at any time or whatever it is. It's just because I think this is the thing. And I meant to say this, and I wanted to talk about it on CAD, but we've delayed that for 100 years, it seems. And I apologize to our Patreon listeners and everything. But, it seems like they kind of our habits of watching TV are changing. And I think I even mentioned this in private where I said, well, people DVR things, they do on demand, all these things. So it's not like we sit in front of the TV and just watch like we normally used to do 10 years ago. So in their mind, it's like, all right, well, and maybe it's even for them to get conditioned for how they're going to do the streaming service as well, because they only did the 3 episodes, whereas on Netflix, the whole season would have been released right then and there, right? So maybe they're trying to figure things out, how they're going to do it as well. And this is a good way of kind of figuring that out before they get into that whole thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I didn't have a problem. I was happy. It was 3 episodes. I'm like, oh, great. I can watch this with Morgan, and it's great, and everything's fun. And I liked it. I was happy. I'm like, great. Now I don't miss out on The Walking Dead, although I wish I did miss out on the premiere of The Walking Dead. But that's a whole other podcast at another time. But go ahead, sir. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I like it when they release these on the apps early. This isn't new territory in general. Numerous places do this type of activity, but I like it because, like I said, we were at breakfast downstairs in our resort, and I just happened to remember because I saw the Discord chatter, and I was like, oh, let me pull up the Disney Now app, and I did. And so Haley and I got to at least watch a little bit. We couldn't hear it well because it was a bit noisy, but if I didn't have that, I likely would not have been able to see it until I got home, which was Monday evening. So a whole day later. And so I like the flexibility of being able to get to it. I pay for PlayStation View. So I have quote unquote television service that's compatible with Disney. And I just, plug my information in there and I was good to go. But I liked that. I was glad we had I was surprised we had 3 episodes. I was with you. I thought we'd get the hour-long pilot. Maybe we get the hour-long pilot plus the next episode. I didn't expect to get a full 2 hours or, roughly 2 hours or, 4 shows worth of content though, which was a pleasant surprise. We get a good flavor for where the show, what it is and where it's going. And you don't have to wait till the next week to do it. I like the Netflix way of doing things where you get everything at once and you can watch at your own pace and you can stop at your own pace. If it's not for you, you don't feel like you have to wait week over week. But
I'm curious, this weekend coming up, of course the show will be out by then, but this weekend coming up, did we get 3 new episodes? Well, how is that going to work? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
That's a good point because I don't know. At the end, Rebels started releasing 2 at a time, right? But it was only doing 1, for the longest time. Same with Clone Wars, really just got 1. So I think we're probably going to get into more of the 1 routine. I wouldn't.
I think so now after the premiere. Yeah,
I wouldn't object to 2 a week, especially these first few weeks, so that they get content out there and then they can have it rewatched and they can start to get some data about, how is it performing? What's the reaction to it? And what's the replayability on it? But yeah, I'm guessing it's probably just going to be an episode at a time. We'll get into more of a standard routine because presumably this show is going to be on, for at least a couple of seasons, I would imagine.
Well, that, and it also feels like it was like, all right, we got it. Let's just throw it out there. Like you could get that aspect of it too. Like, all right, they don't even care. They just want to get it out and move on to whatever they're really planning on doing. They're just throwing this out there. I mean, that's some people will say that. I don't think that at all. I think they're testing a few things. Our viewing way we view things has obviously changed in the last 5 years or so. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But anyway,
so let's get into a little bit of the show itself. I thought we're going to bucket these a bit. We'll talk a little bit about the general story. We'll talk about some of the characters that we were introduced to and what we think of them. And then we'll talk a little bit about the animation, some of the Easter eggs we got, and then we'll wrap up with some of our thoughts. But so generally speaking, this is going to be spoilers. So you've been warned if you haven't seen the show.
Well, that's true. Yeah. We've seen 3, but some other people might not have seen it. So spoiler warning.
Yeah.
Although you listen to Star Wars podcast,
go watch it if you want to be surprised or if you want to have that experience with it. But we are going to potentially work in some spoilers here. So So the general story, though, here at the onset is this is basically a prelude to The Force Awakens. So this isn't right after Return of the Jedi. This is closer to The Force Awakens, and it's a little unclear how close we are.
I want to. Yeah, is this like 3-4 years or something?
I was thinking this is probably a year or two before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of tough to tell with animation, especially with the style. Because when I looked at like Leia when she was on screen.
Yeah, that was the only indication of maybe where you stood in that, like time-wise, because it's the same outfit she had basically in The Force Awakens. But other than that, I'm guessing, it's only 3-4 years out. It might even be closer, but that's just my guess.
Yeah, here's the good news. It can be whatever they need it to be.
Well, that is true. They can just say, you know what? It is actually 2 months. And we'll be like, what?
Right. So the premise is that the First Order is known, but it's not really publicly known yet. And they don't know that there's this threat building. And by they, I mean the galaxy at large. And even the New Republic doesn't necessarily believe this threat is building. And so we already get this tension between the New Republic and the Resistance. And so the Resistance is already led by General Leia. And we already see some of these behaviors or some of these reactions that the New Republic is viewing the Resistance as extremists. You know, some of the things we talked about with Rex a few weeks ago, they're more this extremist type of organization. They have this bloodlust almost. They just can't stop fighting. Whereas the Resistance views the New Republic as this almost naive body. Now we're filling in some of the gaps here, but this is the type of vibes I'm getting. Did you get those same kind of kind of at odds with one another?
Yes and no, because I was a little confused, and maybe because I'm just a goofball myself, and simple things just kind of elude me sometimes. But they're going to meet Poe for this information, to give him this information. But yet when Kaz talks to his father and tells him, well, you know, I got to go do this thing with the Resistance or whatever, and he calls him extremist, but he helped Kaz get into the academy, and he's part of the New Republic and everything. But yet he's aloof to this whole mission here. Like, did anyone in the New Republic know about this mission? I mean, they were obviously helping the Resistance here. So
right.
what's the point here? You know what I mean? Like, it just seemed a little. Of course, it's just to get the whole story going. Am I losing my mind and thinking that maybe the father? I mean, he's a senator. You think he might know, but then again, you know, politics being politics, he might not have known, and so forth. So I don't know. Did that seem a little bizarre to you at first, or maybe I'm just thinking too hard on this?
No, it's a good point, and I agree with you, because it was unclear. They were on a mission with intel, but it wasn't. But so if they're not on the same team, so to speak, and you're rushing to do this for the New Republic and get it back to the New Republic leadership, like, they didn't tell us exactly what the intel was. At least I don't remember that they did. But
yeah,
it just seems like it would have supported what the Resistance has already been telling them. So I don't understand. So maybe the dad wasn't aware of that. It seems like he would have probably been part of the sanctioning crew for it, but it's difficult to tell exactly. Was this a sanctioned mission by the New Republic, or was this a hey,
wink, wink, nod, nod?
Yeah, one of those kind of complacent agreements to go ahead and do a little recon here. Just don't engage. I mean, and we saw that too when they went up against what's his name, Major Von Reg, and he's the red pilot and the red TIE fighter. Is they could not engage with him. They were under strict orders, and they were following those orders not to engage within reason. So Kaz ended up, saving his friends or protecting them so they could get away with the information, but until Poe could come in and save the day. But yeah, I'm with you though. It was difficult to see how much they knew, what they were wanting to know, what they expected to know. Because the New Republic, I'm still led to believe, is more or less in the dark, and they have the blindfold pulled over, on their own, and they're holding their hand. They got their hands over their ears, doing the la 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 thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, I agree with that. It just seemed a little like weird at first. I know you need to put things in motion, so maybe I'm thinking too hard on it. But anyway,
right. So so to that end, when we meet Yeager. When they're on Castellan and they're on the Colossus, and we'll talk a little bit about some of this stuff in more detail, but just to kind of wrap up this part of the conversation, Yeager makes a comment to Poe that the average person doesn't even know about the Resistance. And it just goes to show you a little bit about how, A, I think how few they are, and then B, how they're more or less working in the shadows. They don't know, or people don't know about this threat in general, and they think everything is perfectly fine. And so it was interesting to get that perspective from Yeager, that, and it gives us that perspective too, that the resistance is very much still in its perhaps infancy stage, or very much in this development stage, that much like the rebellion was in the Rogue One, maybe not near as far along as where the rebellion was with Rogue One.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because it seems like the general population is comfortable and complacent. Like they don't think there's like a threat, so to speak,
Right.
even when it's like the rough and tumble outer reaches there, and stuff like that. Like it's not as bad. Sure, there's bad pockets and everything, but everything's relatively peaceful and normal in their eyes. So it's just the way of life. There's not this big looming threat that's coming that's going to blow up planets and everything. Like I guess they think the big war is over and there's nothing coming, and it's just like, whatever. I'm trying to race pods here and trying to make a living type of thing. I don't have time to worry about these people in stormtrooper outfits and all that stuff. So maybe that's kind of where he's getting at. But Yeager knows about it, which I don't know if I trust him so much. But I'll leave it at that for now.
But yeah, we'll get into a little bit of his backstory, because there was a little flavor there I did enjoy. But I want to talk a little bit about Castellan and the Colossus. So this is it's a fuel depot, and one of the largest of its kind. And the general premise of this thing I thought was pretty neat, because I didn't know how they were going to create a base of operations. And from the previews we got, it seemed very, racing oriented, more like racetrack-ish type of deal. Instead of this kind of budding, kind of reminded me of like a Camino of sorts, right? You're just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and you have this huge fuel depot. So it has importance, and you have this really kind of rough lifestyle that's around there, just trying to make it through and do the racing thing to get money and notoriety and those types of deals. But what did you think of the Colossus? What did you think of that idea as our hub of all of our activity for the series?
I thought it was pretty cool. I'm sure they're going to have a racing game based off of the obstacles there that they were doing.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of being out. It reminded me of some of those old movies I saw where they're lost. That people are driving and then they pull into that gas station that's just kind of weird. You see the guy behind the counter is a little goofy and crazy, and you don't know what's going on there. And you find a bunch of characters that are like local town folk and stuff. So it kind of reminded me of that, and I thought it was pretty good. The pirate thing was a little weird to me, that whole arrangement. But I'll get into that in a moment. But
right.
Overall, I liked the idea of the station being out in the middle of nowhere. I thought that was cool. It's something that we didn't necessarily see, other than, you could Bespin was more of a metropolis. But then you think about, it was out in the open, like out in the boonies somewhere,
right.
And it wasn't really that much of an afterthought. I guess you could say the Rex and Wolfie and McGregor there out in the sands there with their thing was kind of related to that. Like they had their own little, it's obviously smaller and it wasn't a fueling station, but that kind of isolation feeling, I guess you could say. Or even Gregor when they, Gascon there, and they were doing that mission out to wherever they were. I can't even remember the planet there, which with the droids and everything, D Squad.
Right.
And kind of like that. I guess you could say it was kind of like that, but on a better scale. And then, it did remind me a little bit of Camino a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and this is going to be a little sacrilegious, so people will have to forgive me, but it kind of reminded me of Deep Space Nine a little bit. I mean, much smaller scale, but the same kind of general premise, right? Just a lot of different things going on in one hub. And
I didn't want to fire you on air, but I guess I'm going to have to.
I know. Meanwhile,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Crowley's like pumping his fists in excitement, but it's just general structure of it, and the premise behind it reminded me a bit of that series as well. But so let's maybe move into a little bit of what Kaz is going to do there and what he's supposed to be. So Poe sees something special in Kaz and thinks that he should be a spy for them. So they're having some doubts. They think there's a spy in the midst at the Colossus and on Castellan, and they want to see who's loyal. So they're trying to figure out, as they build this resistance, trying to figure out who's loyal and where the mole's going to be. But what we end up developing over the course of these few episodes is not only the spy and Kaz's excitement, I guess, to be a spy and his utter failings at kind of being a spy, but really this underlying thing that Yeager keeps telling him to do is really, you have to survive the platform. This place is unforgiving. It's it's an environment where you will be eaten or beaten, and maybe both, and tossed off the side if you can't figure out how to adapt and be here. You got to earn your keep.
Or exposed as well.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Figure out who you are because you're not fitting in. So
right, and we saw that a little bit with the Triple Dark episode with the pirates, and he kind of saw the signs, and it all clicked for him, right? And with Hallian, and that he, ended up being a spy, but for pirates, he knew something was going on, something felt out of place. But really, it's coming more to this survival and who can you trust, and it's developing more into that type of story, at least to start here. And I thought that was pretty all right. I think that was pretty good. It's his enthusiasm, Kaz's enthusiasm for some of this it kind of wears on you a little bit, but it's also a Y7 show, so you have to forgive some of that a little bit for us older folks. Yeah. But so, what did you think of him him developing the spy kind of mentality, and Yeager's general premise of just survive? That's your number one priority, is just survive.
I like that dynamic between the two of them, and I like Kaz. I don't know if I like his overexcitement and I think that's more of the animation thing. Like I don't still. Well, we'll get into that in a moment. So, but I like the character development, and I like their. It kind of reminded me of Kanan and Ezra early on, and of course Kaz looks like Ezra a little bit, to a degree. I did like that dynamic. There's one character that kind of annoys me, and I'll get into that in a moment. But overall, I like the character. I liked all of them, really. I didn't really have too much of a problem with any of them. I thought the conversations were good and everything. I thought overall the story was pretty darn good and solid. And again, I saw a tweet because this is geared towards kids, like my daughter's age, your daughter's age, and Albert's kids and stuff. And someone's tweeted out, Star Wars is for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're 5 or 99, it's for everyone. And I agree, but there's also things that are targeted towards a certain audience, and us older folks are going to realize that. And I did here too. And I think I actually enjoyed it more when I took that pressure off of saying, oh, I got to be serious like the Clone Wars. And it's just like, no, I'm going to enjoy this with my daughter and see where it goes. It was very lighthearted and campy and fun, adventurous, and it was good. And there were hints of adult things that are in there that could potentially be a payoff for us older folks, and even the younger kids like Morgan will put it together as well. I just thought there was a lot of potential there going forward. That said, I don't think it's that deep, so to speak, like Clone Wars, but it could. Right. Filoni could, like, you've mentioned on the show a couple of weeks ago, we said that about Clone Wars, we said that about Rebels, and it grew up in like season 2. So, the wheels can fall off quickly, I guess you could say. But yeah, I like Yeager. He's one of my favorites. And maybe it's because I'm an older man now, and I kind of can relate to the grumpiness that he had there and the seriousness, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But what did you think of him?
Well, yeah, I thought it was pretty. And this is a good time to just get into characters, and maybe we could start with Yeager then, where you're right. We have this veteran type of guy on the platform, and we get some really cool flavors with pictures on his desk of like his family, and he fought in the rebellion. And he went to Galaxy's Edge. Still, well, but right, because that's Batu in the background there. But that's nice tie in there. That's right. That marketing machine at work. But we get this. Yeah, he's left all that in the past, right? He was at the Battle of Jakku, and he's got some baggage there. So this is kind of that depth that folks like us get into. Of okay, what is that story? Because we can understand that backstory a little bit better, and there's something interesting. We always want to know what puts the character in the position of where they're at, especially these ones that want to resist the call, right?
The fight.
Yeah. They don't, the hero's journey, they want to put that off and not get involved, right? And so that's always something that we look forward to. But it was his interaction with Poe. I kind of like, those were some of my favorite scenes, which is him and Poe talking in the bar or as he's getting around, and Poe just has this unquivering belief that Yeager's going to do the right thing. And he'll take care of Kaz. But I liked this character. I liked the way that he was drawn, a little bit different. The voice acting is fantastic, of course. But
well, what this made me think of, like between Poe and Yeager, is had Kanan survived and Ezra been around, like I imagine Kanan would have went off and kind of just wanted to be alone and do his thing and kind of not get involved in the war, because he didn't really want to anyway. And, obviously Ezra would still be involved, it'd still be wise and everything. But Ezra would always try to go back to his master and kind of say, "Hey, I need your help," and that, or he would have someone, he would entrust with Kanan and show him the way, or kind of help him out, or something like that. Like I could imagine that. I'm just saying the dynamic between the two characters as Kanan get older and Ezra get older. I could see that kind of being the same way, where they've both been through stuff, they've been together, and I imagine Yeager kind of trained Poe at some point, or took him under his wing or something.
Right.
And there's that trust and there's that friendship that's there. And yeah, Yeager's a little bit grumpy about it and doesn't want to do it, but he will do it because he's friends with him and everything. And Poe knows that, and there's that trust and that bond that's there. That's what I took away from their relationship anyway.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up the Kanan-Ezra relationship, because we see Yeager, it seems like he's got this soft spot for Kaz for some reason, whether he's just, because Kaz is trying to feel his way through. We'll kind of work on a little bit of the Kaz angle here too. Kaz is this really kind of a spoiled kid. It sounds like to me. He's had things gifted. You brought it up earlier. He did everything. Yeah, he got his dad got him in the academy and things like that. So he's really trying to find his place, and he's not getting out of any of the responsibility. He has to learn accountability, and I think Yeager is starting to. I think he realizes that and is accepting this more of a mentorship type of role, which we saw, even though he doesn't really want to know everything he's doing, but he wants to be able to help him and just say, look, earn your keep. This is what it means to be in the real world. And we got a little bit, it's the same kind of pull I saw with Kanan and Ezra really early on, where you had this resistance to it, but you can't help but pass on what you know and pass on the things that you feel are valuable for people to just know fundamentally in their lives.
Yeah.
And so we also get a little flavor that, Yeager maybe used to be a racer, or maybe is a racer. He has a racer. So there's a little bit of mystery there for us, but maybe to go to Kat.
That's why Han Solo is going to show up, because Han was doing the races too. So Han will show up at some point, season 2, I'm going to guess. I'm just throwing it out there now.
Yeah, so. What are the odds that he shows? What's our betting odds?
Pretty good. I'm just throwing out there so I get credit next year when season 2 comes out. I want credit. That's all I'm saying. I just want credit. That's it. But anyway, but continue, sir. Yeah, right, so, with the race.
So was there anything with Kaz that really stuck out that we haven't already worked through already?
No, I think it's important. I thought we got some quick development with him. With the whole. It was weird at first because he's like, well, I want to join the resistance, but then he's going to go ask Dad. Dad's like, whatever. And then he's like, you know what? I can't, I got to be a man now. I got to go out and do things on my own, or I got to be an adult and figure life out myself. Because that's what you got to, and maybe that was a bit of fatherly love on his father's part, where he's like, all right, I've taken care of you long enough. It's time for you to just fall on your face. Because you have to let your kids do that. You have to do that yourself. You have to fall on your face to learn these lessons. And I think it may look harsh when we saw the father doing that, but there might be more to that, and I hope we get that. But from what we saw with him joining up, being very optimistic and gung-ho, and I think Poe saw that, and Poe was a little bit of that, and I think Poe's like, well, that'll calm down once he gets into the thing. And Yeager's the kind of guy to guide him through all that craziness, because I went through it, and Yeager kind of guided me through that. I'm guessing that's what that was. But Kaz, I thought he did very well. Like, he fell on his face. He struggled. He tried to learn, and he's kind of trying to adapt. And he is, as much as he's falling on his feet, like the puppy dog with the big feet that falls over himself,
right?
He's starting to get his feet and starting to be one of the crew and kind of get things. And I thought that was pretty good development for the first 3 episodes. I thought that was great. We got a lot of that out of the way, so now we can go into a bit more meaty stuff, I guess.
Right, and I'm with you. I think as we saw him slow down, and he had these quieter moments where he wasn't just this bundle of energy and excitement, you got to see the serious mind and the potential that Poe sees in him as well, not just as a pilot, but just as a character that we will get a lot more development in. I agree. He went a long way just within a few episodes, for a kid's show, that we start to see that he will become more. He can become more. He isn't just this crazy bouncing off the wall kid.
But I think he had to go through that last episode with what's his face's character. What's his name? Not Rook. I'm thinking Rook from Rebels. There. I'm thinking what's his name? It was what's his name? I can't even think of his name.
It's escaping. But the group of 3 where they were trying to steal Yeager's
steal
fuel.
the bikes. Yes,
Right.
yes, yeah. So in any case, I think when he went through that, that's when it kind of him and Yeager kind of had that moment of like, all right, we turned the page and we can go on from here. And I think that was the most important episode for Kaz to kind of grow up a bit and get his feet finally, so to speak. And I'll leave it at that.
Right. So let's move on to your favorite character, because I have a feeling this is the one you've.
Oh, you know me
say.
too well. As my therapist, you would know this very well. I'm just going to say it that. Yes.
So
this would be the worst.
Niku. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on Niku?
I get the character being the way he is, and he's probably the mole, because you wouldn't think it'd be him because he's so innocent like and kind of direct and to the point and literal. Which I think is what annoys me the most, but I don't know. It's too sunshine and rainbows for me. You know me, I like those grumpy. I'm a grump.
Right.
So I naturally just want to be now. I'm like the guy that got the dot thrown in his back. I just want to, throw the guy off the platform. But I don't know. I think he could be the spy. He's one of my suspects. I'll leave it at that. And
wishful thinking.
I mean, he's okay. I don't know. He's not for me. I'll just leave it at that.
Well,
I don't know. Did you get annoyed by him?
One of the things that grew on me with him. So yeah, he's the comedic representation, right? He's the more lighthearted moments of it, and his demeanor and his you put it really well. Just his blatant misunderstanding of everything, and everything is very obvious and clear cut and black and white.
Maybe he reminds me of a few of my coworkers. Maybe that's what the problem is. But yeah. But anyway,
we see he's the moral compass though as well, right? And even when they had the misunderstanding, he was hurt when he felt like Kaz lied to him. But he was super excited for Kaz to have the opportunity to prove that he wasn't a liar, which I thought was actually pretty fun writing and good execution. So I don't mind the character too much. I thought it would be a little too over the top, and I thought I would hate it and it would grind on me. And it wasn't always great, but as a companion and as a moral compass and someone, you have this really tight bond for him. I think they're a good match. So I think the character is going to work. We'll have to see what I feel like about that over 6 or 8 episodes and see if it gets, old of the same, if it's over the top all the time. But it started to mellow out a little bit, I thought.
Yeah, I think it did get toned down a little bit. I think the first episode, because he interacted so much with Kaz, I think that was maybe that's why. But you're right, it did get toned down because they moved on to other things. So maybe it won't be as bad as initially was.
Right, and we had a good interaction with him with Flix and Orca in the supply area, right?
I did like that interaction. Like it fit well for that. But it was just, I don't know. But anyway, that's just how I am.
All right, so the jury's out on Niku. Maybe a turning of a thumbs down for Mike. I'm probably turning more of a thumbs up on that one. But so I'd like to talk a little bit about Flix and Orca, because I thought these were two I thought they were pretty fun characters. They didn't have a whole lot, but just they
looked like they were from Rick and Morty to me at first.
But they were great.
I don't know.
But they were great. They had these moments where they just paused and like jaw-dropping type of things. Like you don't have any money, and they just stopped what they were doing in disbelief. And they've got this heart of gold type of thing going too.
I do. I do think they were kind of a pleasant surprise for me, because when I first saw them, like I said, what we have Rick and Morty just join the crew here. And it was fine. I was fine with it. Absolutely fine with it. And again, like I said, it was very fun overall. The whole thing was fun. I enjoyed it. So, but yes, Rick. Yeah, I was just gonna call him Rick and Morty. But yes, Flick and Orca, they are pretty cool. I like them.
I like them. I think they're going to show up somewhat frequently too, which I'm actually pretty excited about that. A lot of the other characters we really didn't get a lot of time with them. They were more introduced. I think maybe Toradoza we got the most time with, but we didn't get a lot of interaction to understand about her. We know that she's the commander of the station's daughter, and that she's got insane skills. She's the top pilot, and we see her scores. You can see it in Arabesh, but basically all of her scores are perfect or are near perfect. And so Kaz inadvertently challenges her, and of course she's got this really crazy level of confidence for what sounds like a teenager for the most part, but really she's the only one. We get a flavor of the aces though, which are the other pilots that we met in some of the teaser trailers and some of the
with
the previews.
With the pirates coming up. Yeah, we got a little bit of that.
Right. So,
I'd say we got more of Tora than we did of Tam, the mechanic.
yeah, I was a little disappointed with that. I thought we'd have more with her. Instead, we kind of get, she's like your match made in heaven. She's a bit of a brooder, and she...
I want to see more of it. I thought the dynamic with Kaz and her was good. We just didn't get enough. And I mean, granted, we got a whole season here, right?
Right.
And next season or whatever. So we got time to develop these things. It's just, I thought we were going to get a little bit more from her. But going forward, I'm sure we will anyway.
But I like the idea of the aces. It's not just a racing thing. The aces are the protectors of the station too.
Yeah.
And so I like that they had more to do than just race each other for competition.
Well, see, this is the thing. I thought we were going to have a show full of races, like pod races all the time. And it was just going to be something like that. But it completely did the opposite of what I thought. And I thought it was great that it's not like, I mean, it's there. Like the pod races were on Tatooine there. But it's not like every 5 seconds. Like they weren't. I thought we were going to get into he's going to be racing every 5 seconds and stuff, and that's not what we get at all. And I think that was a good move. So
yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's nice. You get that flavor of it. It's still there. It's still prevalent. It's normal, but it's not the thing you have to have every single episode, and that's the climax for whatever reason. Like the old 80s sitcoms, there was always some cliche thing that they had to do every time, right?
Correct.
So we were also introduced to Bucket, or R1J5, who is basically a stripped down R2 type of unit, right?
It's really Chopper.
Yeah, it's Chopper with without his coverings for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. It's the nude Chopper.
Right. So he's 100 years old and built to last, I think is what Yeager said about him. But he's got this X-Wing pilot on that's always kind of, if he looks down, it looks like he's got mean eyes, which I thought was a nice little clever.
See, I like to think that Dave Filoni is like me, and he likes psychotic, crazy, grumpy, weird droids. I think because Chopper was that. He's that. I mean, I know he didn't have anything to do with K2, but he was on the set, so maybe he kind of said, you should go this way. I don't know, but in any case, I liked him, and he wasn't over the top. Like Chopper at times was like a little much, and maybe used too much. But this was good so far. It's subtle, it's good, and I like it, and I think it's funny that he's just a stripped down. And all I could think of is the R2 builders there,
right?
and when they show up, when you're at Celebration and you see them, and you see how they make it, and they got the naked droid basically, the like step by step thing, and it's just funny. That made me think of that. So, but anyway.
And this would be awesome to see an R2 builder make one.
Oh, they're going to do. They probably already started. But anyway.
So we'll kind of round out the characters. We did meet a couple of first order characters. We saw Major Von Reg both in his TIE fighter as well as in person. And we get some Phasma. I wasn't actually expecting Gwendolyn Christie to be in the episode this soon. But
I wasn't either. I was a little surprised by that.
I was too.
And I got to say, I thought her character was done the best.
I agree. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah. I thought that was the way they did it was like, oh, wow. I'm like, that's more than we got in the movies.
I know it gets your hopes up again, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. I almost don't want to change my PlayStation name, but I thought it was good for what we got for that. The only thing that's confusing me, and I said this before we get on air, and I think other people have said it like in Discord and on social media or whatever, I don't get the understanding of the multicolored troopers. You know what I mean? It just reminds me of, and I know this is going to sound harsh, but and I don't have any problem with anyone that cosplays and does their own thing with the troopers and everything. I actually like when they do those varieties of troopers and everything, the spoofs and everything. But it reminded me of like the red stormtrooper that we had with the jukebox going around, which is cool. I like that. But then we had that. Then we get the gold trooper, and then we have Phasma, the chrome trooper, and of course we have Cardinal that's out there and stuff. I'm like, well, where are we going with this? I need to know more about what is this with rank and why is this that? And I was only a little disappointed when Von Reg got there, and I was waiting for the whole thing. Yes, Cardinal come in, and I was like, oh no, it's not him. And I think prior to that, I knew it wasn't going to be Cardinal, but I was hoping, I guess. But overall, again, this is one of those threads and the nuggets there that like you're like, okay, there's something more there, and they could go there. Will they go there? And us adults and everyone that's even the young kids will kind of like Morgan would pick up on all that stuff. And I thought it was great seeing Starkiller Base. I thought that was awesome. It looked pretty damn cool. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the multicolored, or well, not multicolored, but different colored ranks, I guess you could say, for the troopers? I mean, I know it's a large organization, I guess you could say, the First Order, and I'm sure, we had Cardinal with the red, and then you have Phasma. So I'm sure this is kind of a rank thing, like the clones were at some point back in the day. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. Because with the Empire, they did not value individuality at all. And so we didn't have any variety, and that was very intentional. And now we're in this era where we have little sprinklings of individuality with the colors and the chrome and these types of things. And so I want to know why that's okay. And what I want to know the story behind it. We know the story behind Phasmas, but is the First Order just not that rigid with some of this stuff? Or is it that these people have such exemplary records and their abilities are so, special that their leadership doesn't mind this individuality, displaying itself, or this symbolism almost, because those are dangerous concepts, right?
Yeah, I have a few issues with how they handled the evilness of the First Order, in the sense that, like, it seems like, the First Order, to me, should have been, well, again, the Empire was very rigid and don't want it, it was that whole, it was evil. You knew it was evil.
Right.
The way things were done, you stripped of all your dignity and all that other stuff, and they were harsh and everything. Maybe in my mind, I'm thinking, well, the First Order learned from that, so they're not as rigid. We have a woman trooper, right, in the Force Awakens, I think it is. Yeah, because he's on the bridge. He says, her powers are going to double or whatever. He says to the trooper there, and they take off or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's not as rigid. The only gripe I got with that, with the whole fact that they're open, so to speak, or whatever you want to use the term, or friendly, or whatever you want to be, is I like the contrast of, like, the good guys. They're the good guys because they have this person, that person. They're in part of this. The things that the Empire doesn't like, it's going against them. I've said this before, where I had my argument with the whole Empire. They got to be evil. They got to represent the evil, and the First Order needs to represent evil. So I don't like the whole stripping down of, let's have this trooper or that trooper or whatever. I'd like it the whole, these guys are evil because they don't include these people type of thing. You know what I mean? If that's the way I want to put it, I guess. I don't know. But that's my point with that. So, but again, this is kind of if it's a rank thing, I don't see a problem with it. Snoke's walking around in his gold robe, so I don't think he has an issue with it. So I don't know. Maybe they learned the lessons from the Empire. Maybe be more inclusive, and you don't have to worry about, you have a better chance of winning instead of just relying on this one dude and that dude or whatever. And, at least you got the smart person, go with the smart person, and you'll win the war. I don't know.
Well,
Did any of that make sense?
Yeah, well, I think it's one of these things. If they're going to be special, make them be special. Let them show.
Maybe that's my gripe, because now Phasma doesn't feel, and Cardinal don't feel as special. Like, they were the two opposites of each other, and they felt kind of special.
Right.
And now we got a gold one, and now we got a red pilot. So what's going on here?
Right.
That's
so with Von Reg, though, with the red pilot, we did get a bit of his specialness. So when Kaz got a hit on him, that's the first time anybody's got a hit on him. And so we see the skill, and we see the combat skills, right? And so we do get a flavor that he is elite. And I think we had talked about in Discord, I think when some of the first images came out, the color schemes of both him and the TIE fighters were very reminiscent of the old, I think it was the 181st Elite Squadron or something like that, was what it reminded me of. Of course, the Emperor's Guard always comes to mind, but so it does seem like there's something special. And I'm hopeful now that we will at least see that he is in a class on his own. So it makes sense to differentiate.
Well, for him
visually.
it does. Yeah, because he's obviously a TIE pilot, right? So I imagine he's like the Phasma of the TIE pilots, right? I would think. So that kind of makes sense there. I think the Gold Trooper, that's an interesting one. Is I get the feeling maybe he's closer to Snoke, and that's why he's got the gold. I don't know. Maybe a color changes the closer you get to Snoke. Who knows?
Yeah, and all we got for Commander Pyre was just a name drop, especially. So we'll have to see when he actually surfaces in the story. So I want to give us enough time here to talk a little bit about the animation, though, and some of the Easter eggs. So overall, this anime inspired style, is it working for you?
I don't have a problem with it. It's not my preferred, but I think I'm getting used to it now. And I think that was like with Rebels and even Clone Wars. Once you get into it and we're watching the story, I think the story is winning me over, so to speak, in the characters. So I don't care as much about the animation. It looks great, but at times it seems like when Kaz is too enthusiastic, it looks like, oh, this is like too kiddie for me. But overall, I think it's great. It's beautiful. Like when you're looking at the station, or like they're doing whatever, like a landscape or whatever, and they're out in space. It looks really good. I don't have a problem with it. I'll leave it at that. I think it's fine.
I think the only time I had an issue with it was when you were in a little bit darker environment and the colors still are very pop. They pop and they still have a lot of contrast to them and a lot of brightness. I think that was the only time I noticed it. Otherwise, I thought, aside from...
So when they were in the bar, you wanted a little seedier?
Well, that, and even in the hangar, in some of the darker, like the rooms that you could tell they're lit with just lamps and things like that. So it should be darker, but the character still kind of pops, right? And so it just, it's a little jarring, and it brings them to the surface a little bit more. And the animation doesn't quite, at least for me, it's not working quite as well there. The space battles with the X-Wings, I thought was a lot of fun. That was something I was looking forward to, and I thought that worked really well. Although we have fire in space, which of course isn't possible, but whatever. But I think in general,
Star Wars fake.
Yeah, no, that's right. Star Wars rules. It's like Star Wars door logic, but it's still, I think it's working. The smooth faces, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's fun. I think it fits the atmosphere of the show really well. And I think that's what's most important, is that the animation style fits the vibe of the show and fits the tone that you're trying to set. And I think it's doing that pretty well.
And I'm going to guess that like when it's a darker scene, it's lighter because it's like for my daughter and your daughter, and it's for kids. It's bright and fun and and stuff. I could be wrong because I don't know anything about animation, so I could be completely wrong. I'm just guessing. But anyway, We'll move on, sir.
Right. But so the other thing we got were a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of cool little nuggets if you're paying attention. And we have one pretty much right off the bat with the models of the X-Wings during the confrontation. So we see we're going to get a little bit nerdy here. So we see the T-85 models, which are the brand New Republic ones, but the Resistance is still using these old T-70s. So whenever you see Poe come in, you can note, if you pay attention, you can actually notice the different model types there. But it was neat. And this is also the first time that we've seen the New Republic logo on screen before, I believe. We've seen it in books. We've seen it in comics, I believe. But I think this is the first time we've actually seen the logo on screen, which... Yeah,
we wouldn't have... I don't think we... I'm trying to think in The Force Awakens when they're on Hazian Prime, if they I don't recall... I
remember seeing the Rebel logos, but I don't remember seeing the other one. So, and we see it on the pilot uniforms. I think we saw it on the X-Wings themselves, if I recall. I know we saw it on the uniforms.
Probably, yeah. I'd have to look again, but most likely, I would imagine.
Right. And we, of course, on the TIE Fighter, we actually have, it looks like some sort of shield, as well as hyperdrive, which of course TIE Fighters have really never had that, except in very special, exceptional type
Vader.
Vaders, and I think there's also been some others in Legends, and I think maybe did the TIE Defenders maybe have some of that with Thrawn?
I want to say yes.
Yeah,
because that's what the big threat was. I think part of it. I think so. But anyway,
right. Some of the other things we got I thought these were the most fun. Were some of the camera angles we got. So some of the, like when we were
this jumped right out at me.
Yeah,
right off the bat. Yeah, this was like, oh yeah, I know where that's from. But go ahead.
Yeah, we did, and then I started thinking about it harder. So, like, Hype Phazon ship is the first one that jumped out to me. We have the camera basically strapped onto the hull right outside where his cockpit is, which we have seen
the GoPro shot. Yes.
Right? Yeah, the GoPro shot. So we saw this in Force Awakens. We saw this in Rogue One, and I believe this even dates back to Phantom Menace pod race, because we start to see some of those angles creeping in with Kaz and Tora.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of with the Force Awakens, but I mean not the Force Awakens, the Phantom Menace. But I'm sure it'll pop out if I remember it. But go ahead.
Yeah, it was. Again, it's just these action sequences and the tie-ins and the cinematography aspects of that. I think those are always fun, and like for you and me, that jumped out right away, and I was like, that's cool. It looks great. Those were really great scenes when we saw them in the movies because they were unique for dogfighting. We hadn't really seen that angle before, and it's nice to see that continuing. And you get this continuity with it all too. And we even get that. And go ahead.
I was going to say I like how Dave, because he oversees it all, and obviously he goes to the team and says, "Well, try this and do this and try to." He's trying to push them, which is what George used to do as well,
right?
And trying to push the animation and how we go about. Because I thought some of the camera angles themselves, not just that, were pretty interesting, and I liked what they were doing. Like even that one where I think it was in one of the races. I don't know if Kaz was watching the race or if it was his race, where they're zoomed in on they're not zoomed in, but they're at the circle thing, and then both ships come zooming in. I thought that was really good. I like how they're challenging themselves. And even with the animation, as much as some people may not like it or whatever, at least they're pushing it, so to speak. But anyway.
Right. And I love the love for Star Wars that they work these things in, because the only reason why they're doing this is because they just love this stuff, and they want to see that, they want to imitate what they've grown up with as well. And I think, which scene was it? I wrote in the notes here, The Empire Strikes Back, when Luke crashes, I think both the snowspeeder and his X-Wing. And I believe we had a callback to that crash too. I think it was when they crashed into the water.
Yeah, the pirate with the skull on his mask there, the old stormtrooper mask. Yeah, right. And they crashed in. Yep.
Yeah.
I thought of that immediately. So, yeah.
So I thought those were a lot of fun. Another callback we got, and this is the one that we had a nice little debate in Discord briefly, was in Aunt Z's bar in the background as I think it's Poe and Yeager talking at the bar. If you zoom in, you can see what looks like the fin of an ETA-2 interceptor, which is the Jedi starfighters from Revenge of the Sith, but it has a Kowakian monkey lizard on there. And the way that it is designed and the shape and the pose that he's in is exactly the pose that we see from the Clone Wars on the gunship nose art. And so we were comparing them side by side, and they're clearly not the same hull, but it's just this. It's like, what are you doing to us, Dave? Are you just trolling us, or is this just something for fun? And then why is it on what appears to be just a section of what we would consider a Jedi starfighter?
Yes, the Kowakian monkey lizard. I actually posted a picture because this is actually one of those. You know how that camera angle that you had that jumped out at you when you saw it. This is something else that jumped out at me for some reason. I picked up on the monkey lizard, or the Kowakian bomber, as they like to call it, the monkey bomber, or whatever they call it. And I noticed it in the bar, and I remember, wait a minute, that was in Rebels at Joe's cantina there. I remember it. I think it's Joe's cantina. And then, of course, it was obviously in the Clone Wars when they were on, I forget where they were, what episode it was on. So I'm wondering and I know we talked about it in Discord, and I can't remember who you said it to, but it's like one of those bars, they collect unique things from wherever and put it up on the wall and stuff.
Yeah, the memorabilia.
Very similar thing.
Right.
Yeah. And this was very much like that. And although this was smaller, because Joe's, it was like a bigger thing, I think. And so maybe someone just painted it, copied it, or just took it. And maybe Dave was trolling us. I think he was just throwing all these Easter eggs in just to kind of, appease us, I think, so to speak. But that was a very interesting, that jumped out at me. I was surprised it jumped out at me like that quick. I was like, whoa, hey, I noticed that thing. So, and in any case, and of course I posted on our Instagram and stuff, and some people caught on to it and stuff. And, but it kind of got overshadowed by the whole Batu in the background with Yeager there and his family that, I don't know where they went, but, I assume something had to do with the Empire or whatnot. But in any case, we'll move on.
Yeah. So another fun callback. And then one final one was the ship that Hallian flew in, which is a Sheathopede, I think is how you pronounce it, glass transport shuttle. Which,
can we say that on here? Can we say that word?
Do we have to make this explicit now? Which, of course, we would equate closer to the Phantom 2 in Rebels, right? And so of course, we originally knew this as a Neimoidian escort shuttle, I believe, back in the prequel trilogy.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
So it was cool to see it, there. And I just did a double take, even though it's right in your face. It's like, okay. We're going to make all the Rebel callbacks in the first few episodes here. And just go and get this out of the way. But it was still cool to see it, and it was a classic, I think he said, and it needed some repairs. And it was just, it was this valuable item, even though we're not that removed from Rebels.
Was that Dave trolling the prequel haters? Because it's obviously the prequel ship, and he's like, well, it's a classic, which they kind of are now. But anyway,
well, I viewed it more as he was calling the Spectre group, the Spectre team classics.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Could be. Yeah.
So, but
true.
And then we also got to see Starkiller Base, which
I alluded to a little bit earlier. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. I thought that was phenomenal. I thought it looked great, but
I liked it too.
And I tried to look for the little station where they went. I was looking for. I didn't see it. I'll have to look at another time. But what are your thoughts? Because I liked it. So what were your thoughts?
No, I liked seeing it. I really didn't expect to see it, and sure enough, there it was. And it was more or less finished too, right? It wasn't. We didn't get this, mid-construction Death Star type of thing, and that's why it's a little. We were talking earlier in the show about how close is this to The Force Awakens, and when I see those types of pictures, I just feel like we're not that far away from that timeline. And
well, let me ask you this though: if that is the case, what is the end game for this series? And is this series going to last more than 2 seasons though?
That's a really good,
you know what I mean?
That's a good question. Yeah. I have a hard time seeing this last beyond 2, but I got to be honest, Rebels, I thought was only a couple of seasons as well. And we got, the better part of 4. I mean, I don't say we got 4 full seasons, but we got roughly 3.5 full seasons. Right. And
yeah.
So this one, again, this is another one. It's like, okay, how many stories can you tell that will continue to engage an audience, and maybe a younger audience? You don't have to have all the heavy stories, but it is Star Wars. It is Filoni. We know it. He enjoys that type of storytelling as well. So, but again, how do you do more than 2 years? And it's very possible maybe this extends into the events and beyond of Force Awakens. It's very possible that this could extend, further than we might give it credit for.
Well, it might, because you have a possibility. All right, so the 3rd season, it could take place near the events of Crete when they're fighting, and they send out the distress call, but no one's answering. So maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know. It's very interesting. I don't see this having a long shelf life, but there is some interesting stuff going on.
Because you don't really want to go into this Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. mode where you have this parallel cinematic universe, and then you're just trying to weave through it, because it doesn't seem to work very well, especially for a children's show versus a cinematic experience. Just you can touch on things, but when you start to try to weave that makes things a little more difficult unless you are completely removed from the primary conflict. Right.
True.
But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think this is probably got at least 2 years. Maybe that 3rd year, we'll just have to kind of see how it does. And we'll get a better idea of this timeline as we get more experience with the show. So I thought maybe we give our final thoughts here. And I guess I'd like to ask you a couple questions. One,
okay,
for you, is it too kid focused for you to be able to enjoy it? And then on the other side of that, what'd your daughter think kind of overall?
First question is, it's not too kid-friendly. It's close, but there's enough there to get me intrigued. And again, like I said, the beautiful thing was I watched all 3 with my daughter, and she enjoyed it. She had fun. Now, it's not catching on with her as much as I would like it to do. She still prefers the other stuff, but she sat down, watched it with me, had questions like she always does, but she liked it, and she liked the character. She had fun, which is the important thing. And I even had fun because she was having fun. And like I said, there's enough of a thread there to give us promise when it comes to, when you see the Starkiller Base, Phasma shows up, them talking to the pirates and what maybe that relationship is and how that took place, and who's the mole, who's this. And, there's a lot of potential there to grow and to intrigue me as a fan that's been around for 1,000 years and prefers his Star Wars to be more, geared towards him. But this is fun, and I liked it. And if I was like an 8-year-old boy, I'd have fun. I think it'd be great to watch. So, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. What I liked about it, so I tried to watch the Freemakers Adventures, which is a Lego Star Wars show.
Yeah.
And it was a little too campy for me. It didn't capture my spirit. It was the first time I really felt like something wasn't for me, and I just couldn't figure out how to enjoy it. Right?
Yeah, I get you there, because I felt like when I watched it, I'm like, I'd rather just play a Lego Star Wars game.
Yeah, I love Legos, right? And the characters they had weren't. It wasn't that the show was bad. It just I couldn't connect with it, and I just found myself not engaged, and I just stopped watching it. But this one, I feel a little bit different about. There are some moments where I have a hard time connecting with it, but overall, you're right. There's enough there that I want to keep watching it, and that it is enjoyable. There were some slower moments in it where I was like, okay, what's coming up next? But overall, though, I think it was pretty solid, and I thought it was enjoyable. My daughter, we didn't get to watch the whole thing, but what she did watch, I asked her what she thought about it, and she goes, "I think it was really interesting," and which I think might be code for she hates everything, but I don't know because I don't speak 8-year-old girl very well.
Yeah,
but
neither do I, because it's a tricky thing. Although my daughter's 7, really, but she'll be 8 in May. But I get you. Sometimes I don't know how to relate, and it's an interesting dynamic, a father and his daughter at that age. It's amusing, but in any case,
right. But she'll kind of appease me at the same time, which is I'm eternally grateful. Thank you, Haley. But yeah, so it's one of those things. I don't know if she'll watch it because she's not really into Star Wars, but I think I'm going to keep watching this. I'm going to keep going, give it that shot. With your daughter, did she really latch on to Rebels early on, or did it take her a while to get ramped up with that too?
I think she got hooked on this more than Rebels at first. Like Rebels, She got into once she saw Sabine, and then really she kind of ignored it, and then she liked it. She'd watch it, but then she went in the room and did something else, her toy room or whatever. And then she started one day out of nowhere just watching the Clone Wars because it's Star Wars and Daddy watches it, and she's intrigued by everything that I do and watch and everything. And she fell in love with Ahsoka. So then when Ahsoka came on, and that was it. She was all in for Rebels, and she was happy with that. And then Ahsoka went away, and then she was like, well, it's all right. It's okay. And she liked Ezra. She loves Kanan. Kanan's like one of her favorites. And then this here, she was more into it. Like she was focused on it. She wasn't, looking at it and then going off and doing something, then coming back and stuff. She was more focused on it. So, and that's part of it is her getting older and more mature and sitting down and actually comprehending things a lot more. So, I think she went for this a little bit better. I think, and maybe that's with the animation itself. Like I said, the bright colors, the action, maybe that just appealed to her more. I don't know.
So my last question, and we've been touching on this throughout, was, does the show have promise? And it sounds like we're both in an agreement here that we think it does have some promise.
I do, but again, I think the shelf life is small, and I think if you go beyond that, it might start getting jump the shark type stuff. So it's hard to say, but I definitely see promise there, and I see, like I said, intrigue for us older fans that are there. Like there's little tidbits that you just want to know more about. Like I just said earlier, with the red trooper, the gold trooper, the Captain Phasma. Why do they have different armor and colors, and what's the significance of that? Maybe it's answered, and I'm too stupid to find it, and I'll have to. And someone will say, "Oh well, dope. Here, go to Wikipedia here, and here it is." But I think it has a lot of promise. Especially, I love it for the younger generation to get hooked on Star Wars and enjoy Star Wars and have something fun and adventurous, which is what I know back in the day they had the Droids cartoons and the Ewoks, and that failed miserably from my point of view. I know there's people that loved it. I was definitely not one of those where you just wanted a fun action adventure, and I think this delivers something that I wanted when I was that age. This is probably the story that I would have appealed to me. So I get positive vibes for the show.
And something just popped in my head. How cool would it be if we got a flashback sequence with Yeager back in the Rebellion days with this animation?
Be cool. That would be pretty cool. I don't know if
we'll get that. I'd lose my mind over that.
Yeah, I would like that. Well, we kind of got a little bit when we was, going through the photos there, and you kind of had a little bit of it.
Yeah,
there.
he got that. Yeah, you get that little taste of it. You're like,
a little bit.
I might enjoy that.
Come on, go back a little bit more, Dave. But anyway.
That's right. Let's just roll the Wayback Machine just a little bit. We're such hypocrites because here we are saying we want something new and unique, and now we're asking for.
Yeah, well, it's home. That's
but it's something. It's a different take on it too with this animation, which I've got these the character Saracel and the artwork that Acme Archives used to do, or I guess they still do it. But for a while, they were doing Rebellion era in that animation style, and those orange uniforms just pop, and it looks great. And ever since then, I was like, man, how cool would it be if we had like an X-Wing TV show in that animation style, or even in this this kind of anime inspired type of style.
Yeah.
And how cool that would be. So when I saw that, I did have a little geek out moment of like, man, that'd be so cool if we actually got that.
Yeah.
So that's about it for our take on Resistance Reaction Show. I do want to take a minute to remind everyone that we are part of Earglue Media, and we just launched our eargluemedia.com website.
Which, by the way, I publicly want to thank Jonesy. Jonesy worked very hard to get the site where it needed to be, because I lacked for like a whole year. I kind of just didn't get very far. I'll leave it at that, which is crazy, because I built 2 other websites before, and it just took Jonesy to kind of say, no, I'm going to do it and get it done. So thank you, Jonesy. You were a big help in getting Earglue Media officially launched, so to speak.
Oh, my pleasure. And I'm excited because we've got Bad Gamers Anonymous on there. We've got, I think, 56 episodes now. The Basement's on there with 722 hours of content.
More than the Cantina Cast, and the Cantina Cast has been around for a long, long time. So
it's funny about that, because Albert said when we did episode 250, he said we have like 10 days, roughly 10 days solid of Cantina Cast content, right?
And that's one episode of The Basement.
No, I started calculating his, and he's up over 24 hours of content already. And he's like 8 months into this endeavor or something like that, right? He started at the beginning of this year, so
and he's only on chapter 6. So
he's halfway through chapter 6.
That's true.
But we've got all the content out there. You can go and sample it and listen to it. We hope you guys take a few minutes to go check it out. Meet us up on Discord. Check us out on social media. We're on Instagram at the Cantina Cast. We're on Twitter at the Cantina Cast. Facebook.com/the Cantina Cast. You can send us an email, cantinacast@fanmail@gmail.com. You can leave us reviews on iTunes. You can find us on Discord. We've got Patreon at the Cantina Cast. TeePublic if you want to do some swag. Next week, looks like we're going to dig into the solo Blu-ray and deleted scenes. So see what we have in common with the book. What else that's interesting to watch there as well. And Mike, I definitely want to say thank you for joining me, and I've had a really good time going over the Resistance show with you.
It's been fun, and I'm sure I'll be back. Maybe not as soon as I was this time, but it's been fun. I love.
You've met your quota for a while, huh?
Yeah. I think I'm good till Christmas, maybe further out. Maybe celebration. We'll go celebration. Maybe that's the goal. Right. I'll probably be here next week, everybody. So maybe get used to me again. I don't know. I'm only kidding. I am in retirement with Star Wars Podcast, and don't get used to me. All right. I'll leave it at that.
Well, on that note, we want to say thanks, and we'll see you next week.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.